Take a moment and think about the weight you're carrying, not the one on your shoulders, but the one in your mind, the silent stress, the endless comparisons, the invisible expectations you never agreed to, but still feel forced to meet. We live in a world that teaches us to keep adding more goals, more possessions, more people, more noise. But what if the peace you've been chasing isn't in adding more, it's in eliminating what no longer serves you? Today, I want to talk to you about something quiet, yet powerful. Not the things you should gain, but the things you should let go of gently, silently, and intentionally. Because sometimes most profound transformation doesn't come from what you do. It comes from what you stop doing. By the end of this speech, you'll see how letting go of just a few hidden weights can completely change the way you live, think, and feel. So stay with me, not just to hear these 15 things, but to find yourself within them. You know, the first thing that silently steals your peace and energy isn't the challenges you face or the work you do. It's the people you allow too close. The ones who drain your spirit bit by bit without you even realizing it. We've all had someone in our life who leaves us feeling smaller after every conversation. Someone who turns every moment into a competition, every idea into criticism, every joy into guilt. And yet we hold on to them, hoping they'll change, hoping that if we just love them a little harder, they'll stop hurting us. But here's the truth. You can't heal in the same environment that made you sick, shaped by the energy we surround ourselves with. Think about that. Every day you are absorbing words, emotions, attitudes, and beliefs from the people around you. Their energy becomes your environment, and your environment becomes your mindset. If you spend your time with people who constantly complain, gossip, or belittle you, soon that energy will live inside you. You start doubting your worth. You start shrinking your dreams to fit their comfort zone. You start apologizing for being yourself. You know what's even more dangerous? It doesn't happen all at once. Toxic energy seeps in slowly. It starts with small things, a sarcastic comment here, a dismissive tone there. You brush it off. Tell yourself it's no big deal. But over time, adds up. You wake up one day realizing you've been walking on eggshells. Second, guessing everything you say and do, afraid of how they'll react. That's not love. That's not friendship. That's emotional captivity. Some of you might be thinking, what if they're family? What if they've been in my life forever? And I get that. Letting go doesn't always mean walking away completely. Sometimes it means redefining the relationship, creating distance, setting boundaries, learning to say, no, not this time. It's not about punishing them. It's about protecting your peace. Because peace is not a luxury. It's a necessity for your growth. You can't elevate your life while staying attached to people committed to staying the same. If you want to climb higher, you have to release the hands that keep pulling you back down. Sometimes it's not about holding on. It's about letting go with compassion, wishing them well, and freeing yourself in the process. When you let go of what drains you, you create space for what fuels you. Now, let me ask you something. Was the last time you truly felt energized by someone's presence? Think about that one person who believes in you, that question, who listens not to reply, but to understand, who pushes you to grow, to dream bigger, to demand more from yourself. That's the kind of energy you deserve. That's the kind of connection that multiplies your strength instead of dividing it. I remember meeting people who carried a light within them, a quiet confidence, a grounded calm. They weren't loud, trying to impress anyone. They just radiated peace. You know why? Because they had learned to eliminate the noise. They had chosen who gets access to their energy, their focus, their heart. And that choice changed everything. Here's something powerful. You teach people how to treat you by what you tolerate. If you keep allowing disrespect, it becomes your normal. If you keep excusing bad behavior, it becomes your pattern. But the moment you decide, no more, the moment you draw that invisible line and stand by it, you reclaim your power. You send a message to the world that says, my energy is sacred and I will not let anyone poison it. And let me tell you, the moment you start doing this, life will test you. People will call you selfish. They'll say you've changed. But here's the truth. They're right. You have changed. You've stopped living for approval. You've stopped letting guilt control your decisions. You've chosen peace over chaos, growth over comfort, purpose over pleasing others. That's not selfish. That's self-respect. So take a hard look at your circle. Who inspires you? Who drains you? Who supports your evolution? And who fears it? Be honest with yourself. You don't have to announce your decision to anyone. You don't have to make a scene. Just quietly, gracefully start creating distance where your soul feels small. And something incredible happens when you do this. Your energy shifts. Your mind becomes clearer. You start attracting people who match your new vibration. People who value honesty, kindness, and growth. The quality of your life always mirrors the quality of your relationships. So if you want to elevate your life, start by elevating your circle. You owe it to yourself to protect your light, to remove anyone who dims it, no matter how long they've been standing beside you. Letting go doesn't mean hate. It means love with wisdom. It means you care enough about your future to stop reliving the same pain, because you can't rise while holding on to what was meant to stay behind. And in that quiet act of release, you'll discover something profound. Peace isn't found. It's created. It's the reward for having the courage to choose yourself finally and fully. And when you do that, you stop surviving other people's storms and start living your own sunshine. You know what's interesting? We live in a time where everyone's life is on display. You can scroll for 5 minutes and see people traveling the world, buying new cars, smiling in perfect photos, announcing new jobs, engagements, achievements. And even if you don't want to, part of you starts to compare. You start asking yourself, am I doing enough? Am I behind? Why does their life look so much better than mine? You tell yourself it's harmless, that you're just observing. But slowly, it begins to eat away at your confidence, your gratitude, your peace. Comparison is a thief that doesn't knock. It slips quietly into your mind and convinces you that who you are, what you have, and where you are isn't enough. It blinds you to your own progress because you're too busy watching someone else's highlight reel. But what you forget is that people only show you what they want you to see. Behind every perfect photo is a battle. Behind every smile is a story. Behind every success is a struggle you'll never know. When you compare your reality to someone else's illusion, you set yourself up for misery. You see, comparison is rooted in insecurity. And insecurity grows when you look outward instead of inward. Every time you measure your worth by what someone else has, you disconnect from your own path. You stop listening to your intuition, your purpose, your unique rhythm. You trade authenticity for approval. And here's the problem. Approval is addictive. It never satisfies. You get one compliment and you crave another. You get a few likes and suddenly your happiness depends on validation from people who don't even know your story. We all want to be seen, appreciated, recognized. That's human. When you start chasing validation instead of growth, you become a puppet to other people's opinions. You start editing yourself, shrinking your truth, adjusting your dreams just to fit someone else's expectation. You lose your voice trying to earn applause, but no amount of applause will ever fill the void that comes from betraying yourself. The truth is, the moment you stop living for others' approval, you start living for your own fulfillment. That shift changes everything. You walk differently, you speak differently. You start doing things not because they'll impress someone, but because they align with who you are. That's freedom. That's real confidence. Because real confidence doesn't need to be loud. It doesn't need to post or prove. Real confidence is quiet. It's the calm knowing that you're walking your path at your pace, in your way. There's a story I love about two plants. Was placed in the sunlight, the other in the shade. The one in the sun grew tall and strong, while the one in the shade stayed small. But neither was broken. Each grew exactly how it was supposed to in its own environment. You can't compare two lives when they've been planted in completely different conditions. Your journey is yours, your timeline, your challenges, your blessings, your lessons. When you understand that, you stop competing and start creating. You know what's wild? The same energy you waste comparing yourself could build yourself. Every time you scroll and feel envy, that's a signal, a sign pointing you toward what you desire. Instead of resenting someone for having it from them, study the mindset, the habit system behind their success. Use it as inspiration, not intimidation. Because envy says, I want what they have. But inspiration says, if they can do it, I can too. One drains you, the other drives you. And here's something I want you to remember. People are not your competition, they're mirrors. They reflect back the parts of you that you're not fully honoring yet. When someone's confidence bothers you, maybe it's because you've been quieting your own voice. When someone's success triggers you, maybe it's because you've stopped believing in your potential. Instead of pushing those feelings away, let them guide you back to what matters. You don't need to prove your worth to anyone. You don't need to show off your growth. The right people will recognize it, and the wrong people will minimize it. And neither changes your value. Validation is temporary, but self-respect is permanent. You start measuring your progress by your own standards instead of others. You'll notice something beautiful. You'll feel lighter. You'll stop rushing. You'll stop trying to force your timeline. You'll start trusting that what's meant for you can't miss you, and what's not meant for you can't stay. And yes, people will talk. They'll question your choices, your dreams, your silence. But that's okay. Let them misunderstand you. You're not here to be understood. You're here to be authentic. You're here to live a life that makes sense to you, not to anyone else. The day you stop seeking approval is the day you step into your power. So I want you to do something. The next time you catch yourself comparing, pause, take a deep breath, and remind yourself, I'm not behind, I'm becoming, because that's what you are. Becoming, every step, every mistake, every victory, every delay is shaping you into who you're meant to be. Don't let someone else's chapter 20 make you doubt your chapter 5. Walk your path with faith, not fear. Because when you stop chasing validation and start living from truth, you no longer need to prove your worth. You simply embody it. And that's when the world finally sees the light you were never meant to hide. You know, one of the most powerful yet painful truths in life is this: you can't be everything for everyone and still be something for yourself. Yet so many of us try. We say yes when our heart screams no. We take on responsibilities that aren't ours. Stretch ourselves thin to make everyone around us comfortable. And then we wonder why we feel exhausted, resentful, and empty inside. We've been taught that saying yes makes us kind, helpful, even strong. But the truth is, constant yeses don't make you kind, they make you lost. Because every time you say yes to someone else out of guilt, fear, or obligation, you're saying no to your own needs, your own growth, your own peace. And after a while, small self-betrayals start to pile up. You wake up one day realizing that your schedule is full, but your soul feels empty. You've been so busy keeping everyone else happy that you forgot what happiness even feels like for you. You see, commitment isn't just about time management. It's an emotional trap. It's the belief that if you do more, help more, give more, you'll finally be enough. But enough isn't earned through exhaustion. Enough is a state of being, a reward for overextension. And people pleasing, that's just fear wearing a smile. It's the fear of being rejected, of disappointing someone, of not being liked. But here's the truth: you can give and give and give, and still someone will find fault. You can pour your energy into everyone, and still someone will say it's not enough. So you have to ask yourself, who are you really trying to please? Because often it's not others. It's the voice inside you that says, I don't do this, I'll lose love, I'll lose approval, I'll lose my worth. That voice is a liar. You don't earn love by sacrificing yourself. You don't gain respect by abandoning your boundaries. You gain it by standing firm in your truth, by being honest about your limits, and by choosing quality over quantity, depth over obligation. There's a difference between helping and overextending. Helping comes from strength. Overextending comes from fear. Helping fills you. Overextending drains you. Helping inspires. Overextending exhausts. When you operate from guilt, you create imbalance. You teach others that your time, your energy, your well-being are negotiable. And once that message takes root, people will keep taking until there's nothing left. Not because they're cruel, but because you've trained them that your boundaries don't matter. The most loving thing you can do for others is to show them what healthy balance looks like. That sometimes no is not rejection. It's redirection. It's honesty. It's respect for both yourself and them. When you start honoring your limits, something shifts inside you. You begin to feel lighter. You start to feel aligned. You stop saying yes just to avoid guilt and start saying yes because it truly matters. And yes, at first, it's uncomfortable. The people who are used to you always saying yes might not like the new you. They might question you. They might say you've changed, and that's okay, you have. You've stopped performing and started living. You've stopped seeking approval and started seeking peace. That's not selfish. It's essential. I've met people who spend their entire lives trying to earn acceptance through effort. They run on empty, hoping someone will finally notice all they've done, finally say, you've done enough. But here's the reality that validation never comes. Because the approval you're searching for externally can only come from within. You have to be the one to say, I've done enough for today. I am enough as I am. When you give from a place of fullness, your energy expands. When you give from emptiness, even love feels like a burden. So protect your energy like it's sacred, because it is. You can't pour from an empty cup, and you can't shine when you're dimming your light for others. Every time you say no to something that doesn't align, you're saying yes to something that does. Every no creates space for the right yes. I want you to think about your calendar, your commitments, your habits. How many of those things truly serve your soul? How many of them bring joy, purpose, or peace? And how many exist simply because you were afraid to say no? What would happen if, for once, you stopped trying to keep everyone happy and started focusing on being whole instead of light? The truth is, people who truly love and respect you won't disappear. When you set boundaries, they'll adjust, they'll understand. The ones who don't only attach to what you could give them, not who you are. So stop confusing self-sacrifice with love. Love doesn't demand you lose yourself to prove it. Start small. Say no without apology. Take time to rest without guilt. Protect your weekends, your peace. Listen to your body when it whispers that you've had enough, before it screams. This isn't weakness, it's wisdom. Because every yes that comes from fear drains you, but every yes that comes from alignment expands you. And one day, you finally start choosing from strength instead of obligation. You'll realize that the people who are meant for you don't need you to overextend. They just need you to be real. And that's the freedom we all crave. Because when you stop saying yes to everything, you finally say yes to yourself. You ever walk into a room and before you even realize it, your shoulders tense up. You don't know why, but something feels heavy. You look around and see piles of clothes, scattered papers, unopened mail, old things you've been meaning to deal with. You think it's harmless clutter, just physical stuff. But what you don't realize is that every piece of that clutter is a small decision you postponed, fragment of your past that you haven't released. And all of it quietly weighs on your mind. Clutter isn't just about what's lying around your house. It's about what's lying around in your head. The thoughts you replay, regrets you keep revisiting, the emotions you haven't processed. Physical clutter and mental clutter feed each other. You can't think clearly in a space that's drowning in unfinished business. You can't create peace in a mind that's constantly crowded with what, if this, should haves, and unfinished stories. Here's the truth: most people don't talk about everything you hold on to has energy. The clothes you never wear, projects you never finish, the relationships you haven't truly let go of, they all take up space. And space is powerful. Space is potential. When you're surrounded by clutter, you're living in a space where there's no room for new energy, room for new opportunities, no room for growth. We keep things both physical and emotional because we think they give us safety. That old shirt reminds you of better days. That pile of old notes feels like proof you once worked hard. That toxic memory you replay feels like protection from getting hurt again. But all that holding on is an illusion. You're not protecting yourself. You're imprisoning yourself. You're anchoring your present to your past. Sometimes people say, I'll declutter when I have time. But decluttering isn't about time. It's about truth. It's about facing yourself. Because when you start letting go of the things that no longer serve you, it's not just a cleaning project. It's a confrontation. It's looking at who you were, what you've been holding on to, and deciding who you want to be next. And that's hard. But that's also transformation. You clear your physical space, something happens in your emotional space. You start thinking clearer. You start sleeping better. You start breathing easier. Why? Because your environment is an external reflection of your internal world. A cluttered space mirrors a cluttered mind. That's why some of the most successful, peaceful people you'll meet have simplicity around them, not emptiness, but intentionality. Everything in their space has a purpose. Nothing is just there. And it's not just the physical things. Let's talk about digital clutter, the chaos in your phone, your inbox, your social feeds, hundreds of unread messages, notifications that never stop, screens full of things screaming for your attention. Every buzz, every alert, every ping steals a piece of your focus. You might not realize it, but that constant noise is training your brain to live in distraction, to crave stimulation. Be still. And when you can't be still, you can't hear yourself. Stillness is where wisdom lives. Stillness is where peace begins. But you can't get to stillness if you're buried in clutter, mental, digital, or emotional. Sometimes heaviest clutter isn't around you. It's within you. It's the resentment you keep rehearsing, the guilt you keep replaying, the story about yourself that you've outgrown but still carry. That's the kind of clutter that steals your energy the most. Because you can walk into a clean house and still feel chaos if your mind hasn't been cleared. You've got to start asking yourself, am I still holding on to that doesn't belong in my future? What have I been keeping just because it's familiar, even though it's heavy? It might be an old friendship that's no longer aligned, a belief about yourself that you've outgrown, a fear that's kept you playing small. Whatever it is, you have to face it. You have to clean it out quietly, intentionally, and completely. When you start releasing what no longer serves you, something beautiful happens. You create space for what's meant for you. You stop living in creation. You stop surviving yesterday and start designing today. That's the power of letting go. It's not loss, it's liberation. Don't rush the process. You don't have to throw everything out in one day. You start small, one drawer, one conversation, one limiting belief. Every time you clear something away, you reclaim a piece of your energy. You'll start to notice that you breathe deeper, think sharper, and feel lighter. It's not just about what you remove. It's about what you make room for: clarity, peace, possibility. So many people think the path to happiness is about adding more stuff, more goals, more connections. But the truth is, happiness often comes from subtraction, the quiet elimination of what no longer fits the life you're growing into. The peace you're looking for isn't waiting at the end of achievement. It's waiting in the empty spaces you're too afraid to create. Letting go is not about forgetting. It's about freeing yourself. It's about honoring what once was, refusing to let it define what's next. When you clear the clutter from your life, you're sending a message to the universe: I'm ready for more. I'm ready for better. Because peace doesn't come from what you hold on to. It comes from what you finally release. Fear, it's one of the quietest, yet most powerful forces shaping our lives. Most of the time, it's not the fear of danger that holds us back. It's the fear of failure, the fear of being seen trying and not succeeding, the fear of being judged, misunderstood, or rejected. That fear doesn't just whisper. It dictates. It builds invisible walls around your potential and convinces you that staying safe is smarter than taking a chance. But here's the truth: the fear of failure isn't really about failing. It's about what we think failure means about us. Somewhere along the way, we started equating failure with worth. If something doesn't work out, we think I'm not good enough. Instead of that, didn't work out yet. We stop seeing failure as feedback and start seeing it as final. That's the lie that keeps people stuck for years, sometimes for life. Think about it. How many ideas have you buried before they ever had a chance? How many dreams did you talk yourself out of because the voice in your head said, if it doesn't work? You know what's even scarier than failing? Living a life where you never even tried, because regret is heavier than any mistake you could ever make. We live in a world that celebrates success but hides the process. You see the finished product, the business that made it, the person who has it all, the story that ends in triumph. What you don't see are the nights they doubted themselves, the rejections, the fear they had to walk through. Every person you admire failed more times than they succeeded, but they kept moving. They used failure as a teacher, not a verdict. The truth is, you cannot grow without falling. You can't build confidence by staying comfortable. Every failure holds information about what works, what doesn't, who you are, and what you're capable of. But you'll never get that information if you never take the risk. Fear of failure doesn't protect you. It imprisons you. It's like standing in front of an open door, but refusing to walk through it because you can't see what's on the other side. And then there's self-doubt. That quiet, cunning voice that says, you to do this? It shows up right when you're about to take a step forward. It sounds logical. It sounds protective, but it's really just fear wearing a friendly mask. The moment you start believing that voice, you hand over your power. You start negotiating with your potential. You play small. You convince yourself that maybe it's safer to stay unseen than to be seen and fail. Let me tell you something. Confidence isn't built by waiting to feel ready. It's built by acting before you do. Every time you take a step despite the fear, you prove to yourself that you can handle more than you think. That's how courage grows. Courage doesn't eliminate fear. It moves with it. You can't think your way into confidence. You act your way into it. The people who achieve extraordinary things aren't fearless. They've just learned to dance with fear. They hear the voice of doubt, but they don't obey it. They fail. They don't let it define them. They understand that failure isn't the opposite of success. It's the path to it. I want you to remember something. Every great success story began with someone who was terrified. The difference is they acted anyway. They stopped waiting for perfect timing, for total confidence, for the fear to disappear, because it never does. Fear never goes away completely, but you can learn to stop letting it drive. You put it in the passenger seat and say, you can ride. You don't get to steer. When you shift your relationship with failure, everything changes. You stop asking, what if I fail? And start asking, could I learn? Because every